All right. I hope this thing works. Welcome to the Daily Recall Show. I'm your host, Vasily, and in this videos, I'm going to be talking about the stuff that I'm learning. Because I believe that if every single person on this planet learned something new, just one single thing a day, this would be a better world. So that's why I'm doing this. And I'm doing this in real time, so there is no editing. And I'm actually recalling the stuff that I am learning myself. So this is going to be really fun because sometimes my memory will probably screw me up. And yeah, really badly. But, anyways, in the first episode, I wanted to talk about problem solving. And this is something really cool because the world is really complex and has become more complex in the past couple decades, right? So we get to know how to solve problems really well, to basically operate well in this world. And there is just one model of thinking that I find particularly interesting that I picked up from a book on how to solve really complex problems that I'm going to be talking about today. And the idea is it's called the three tree screens method, right? So the idea is that when a normal person, a regular person in the world perceives an object, a tree, right, or a representation of this object, let's say a word which states a tree, they kind of have a mental screen in their head popping up, right? And this screen is saying, it's like a picture of a tree. But they only see this tree in the present time and they only see just one tree of this picture. I'll just explain what that means a little bit later. When a trained person, when a person who knows how to solve problems perceives a tree, a word, right? He's got three screens. So in the first screen, he's got the tree, the same tree that the untrained person has. But on the upper level hierarchy, he's got a group of trees. So it's kind of like an upper level system, okay? And on the lower level system, he's got a branch. Now, an even more trained person would then see the forest behind the trees. Here, just a little bit upper than a group of trees, right? Because that's how systems become more complex. And an even more trained person on the lower level would see a leaf on this tree, or even like leaf on a cellular level, where cells use chlorophyll to render oxygen and this kind of stuff. So an even more trained person would then see side screens for each level of this hierarchy of systems. And each side screen is basically kind of like a mirror. So if you've ever been to a corridor of mirrors where those two are kind of located like this, and you see this infinite reflection, so that's basically a time dimension here. And for example, for the tree level, right, a trained person sees this tree that someday, not just long ago, it was just a little thing, right? And before that, it was a seed, right? And after, if we go back, if we go forward in time, the guy with an axe will probably come and cut this thing, or something like that. And on the forest level, for example, something that might happen in the future might be a fire or something like that. Okay, so you might be wondering how this is any helpful, and I want to finish this one with a story. So there was this famous problem, the Bangladesh dates problem. Basically, in Bangladesh, there are 12.5 million dates trees, like these tasty metal things, right, that you eat. And in Bangladesh, there are 12.5 million of those trees. And the problem was that each tree is 20 meters high, and you gotta climb that tree to get the dates. So these guys invited an agriculture company to kind of solve that problem and invent a solution for them. So they would spend much less time climbing those really high trees. So the guys kind of came up with an alpinist approach. They suggested making cuts in the wood so that you kind of have a staircase and you climb the tree. But that didn't work because the tree would suffocate and lose too much juice and then die next year. And then those guys were really surprised when they discovered how peasants, how local guys were solving this problem before them. So what they did basically, they kind of knew this model without knowing that, right? So what they did is when they just planted this tree and it was just a year or 2 years, or 2 years when it was just a year old or 2 years old, and they started making one cut per year. Okay, and that's how a tree would not suffocate, because it's just one cut, and once the tree grows into a giant palm with dates, it's got a natural staircase. So that's just one solution, how you can go back in time and figure out that this tree was someday, not so long ago, just a little like tiny stem, right, from a seed. And that's how you can solve that. Another way, if we go up a little bit on the system hierarchy, would be to say that, okay, there are 12.5 million of them, and that probably means that they're not like scattered around very much, right? So maybe you can plan them in a way so that you don't have to build a staircase for each one. You can build just one and then collect those dates from 10 trees at a time, something like that. Or maybe they're located, if we're on a group level, maybe they're located very closely together, so we don't have to kind of invent a staircase at all. You can just have a rope surround those trees and then climb that rope. So that's an example of how to use their 3-tree screen method. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. See you soon.